The sun gradually ascended over the undulating hills of the Montana Territory on June 25, 1876, casting elongated shadows across the terrain. The valley beneath was eerily quiet, too quiet, as noted by the scouts who shifted restlessly at the forefront of the column. This silence did not embody the tranquility of morning. Rather, it felt like a prelude to something ominous. General George Armstrong Custer positioned himself at the forefront of his troops, his binoculars resting against his chest, the leather strap frayed from years of military service. His gaze was fixed on the horizon, keen, restless, and calculating. The Little Bighorn River meandered through the valley like a concealed route into uncertainty. For the 7th Cavalry trailing behind him, this was intended to be yet another mission: locate the Lakota and Cheyenne encampment, launch a swift attack, and compel a retreat. However, those close enough to observe Custer's expression sensed that something was amiss. He did not appear confident. He did not seem eager. Instead, he appeared absorbed in thought. Some officers would later assert that Custer appeared troubled that morning. Others remarked that he seemed unusually tense. Now, with recently uncovered letters, forgotten testimonies, and long overlooked scout accounts coming to light, historians are beginning to entertain a remarkable possibility. Custer may have been aware that he was heading into a trap. What transpired next may not have been the reckless error we were all led to believe. Instead, it could have been the final decision of a man who perceived retreat as more perilous than the confrontation that lay ahead. Envision the cavalry's gradual progression through the rugged landscape. Dust billowed in thick clouds. Horses labored under the intensifying heat. Custer continued to scan the ridges that obstructed his view, ridges he would typically circumvent. His entire strategy on that day differed significantly from his earlier campaigns. It confused the officers at the time, and it continues to perplex historians today. Why did he decline the reinforcements that were offered earlier in the campaign? Why did he dismiss the Gatling guns even after several officers recommended their use? Why did he split his regiment not just once, but twice before even assessing the size of the native village? For over a century, the explanation was straightforward: arrogance. But now newly examined evidence suggests a much more intricate situation. Among these clues are letters that Custer penned months prior to the battle, letters that disclose a man under immense political pressure, a man who felt constrained by the politics of Washington, a man who believed that failure would not merely tarnish his reputation, but obliterate it completely. One letter includes a chilling statement: "If I retreat now, I will be finished." If that statement reveals anything, it is this: Custer may have perceived retreat as an impossibility, even if he sensed impending danger. Hours before the battle, scouts rode to Custer with urgent warnings. They informed him that the village was vast, much larger than anticipated. They warned him that thousands of warriors had assembled. They cautioned that attacking such a force without support would be tantamount to suicide. However, Custer disregarded their warnings, not due to disbelief, but because he felt he had no choice but to advance. His scouts had a better understanding of the terrain than anyone else. They observed the smoke rising beyond the ridges. They noticed the scattered horses grazing far from the village, an unmistakable indication of a significant gathering. Some scouts were unwilling to proceed further. One, the renowned Arikara scout, Bloody Knife, appeared visibly shaken. According to interpreter Fred Gerard, one scout cautioned Custer with these words: "You are riding into a great circle of danger, a circle, a trap." And this warning was not merely poetic, it was tactical. The native encampment was arranged along the river in a formation that enabled warriors to encircle any attacking force with speed and precision. The terrain itself formed a natural kill zone. One scout made a desperate attempt to persuade Custer to wait for reinforcements. According to that account, Custer responded calmly: "I cannot turn back now. They will say I ran." This solitary statement, overlooked for decades, alters the entire narrative. It implies he recognized the peril, yet believed that humiliation, scandal, and political ruin were more daunting than confronting thousands of warriors. Now let us examine the battlefield itself. Recent archaeological investigations indicate that Custer traversed land that restricted visibility and created blind approaches. This is not a strategy he employed elsewhere. He favored open plains, broad sight lines, and elevated positions. However, at the Little Bighorn, he advanced through narrow ridges and concealed valleys. Why? Either he possessed catastrophic intelligence, or some other factor compelled him to persist on a path he understood was perilous. As the column progressed, warriors emerged in scattered formations, riding slowly, observing, and evaluating. Officers later noted that these warriors were neither attacking nor retreating. They were assessing. Today, military analysts examining this conduct recognize it immediately. It was a tactic designed to entice an enemy into a predetermined battlefield. Moments later, something unsettling occurred. Warriors, visible just moments earlier, vanished behind the ridges, not in a state of panic or confusion, but with intent. This was the moment many historians now contend that the trap began to tighten. Yet Custer did not withdraw. He did not consolidate his forces. Instead, he further divided his men, dispatching Major Reno and Captain Benteen in different directions, miles apart. By splitting his command a second time, he ensured that when the trap closed, he would be isolated. As Custer's remaining 210 men neared the northern edge of the village, the reality finally became apparent. The valley expanded, the smoke dissipated, and the full scale of the Lakota, Cheyenne, and Arapaho encampment came into view. It was not merely a village of a few hundred, it was an enormous assembly, possibly the largest that these tribes had ever gathered. Some estimate that over 2,000 warriors were in attendance. The moment Custer reached the ridge, everything transformed. Warriors surged forth like a tidal wave, emerging from ravines, from tree lines, and from behind ridges. The previous silence was shattered by the sound of war cries echoing through the valley. The trap had completely sprung. Accounts from Lakota and Cheyenne warriors recount how Custer's men attempted to maneuver, forming skirmish lines along the ridges. However, they were already encircled. Warriors on horseback approached at high velocity. Others took positions on the elevated ground. Still more crossed the river and struck Custer's flank. According to native oral history, Custer appeared composed, focused, and resolute, yet unmistakably aware of the odds stacked against him. Some claim he glanced repeatedly toward the south, as if searching for reinforcements that he knew were too far away. At this juncture, Custer no longer directed the battle. The land dictated it. The warriors dictated it. The trap dictated it. As the firefight escalated, the cavalry's ammunition diminished and their defensive lines contracted. Men retreated to the final ridge, which would later be referred to as Last Stand Hill. According to various native accounts, there was a poignant moment near the conclusion when Custer hesitated, gazing across the ridge as if in search of an escape route that did not exist. Whether he realized he had been ensnared or whether he acknowledged his own errors may never be fully understood. But he was aware of the reality. He was encircled, every exit was blocked, and the warning his scouts had provided, the great circle of danger, had materialized. In a brief period, the last of Custer's men fell. The precise timing is contested, but most historians concur that the battle on Last Stand Hill concluded on the afternoon of June 25, 1876. By the following morning, no member of Custer's immediate command was left alive. For generations, the narrative of Custer's last stand has been recounted as a tale of hubris, misjudgment, and broken valor. But with the recent reassessment of battlefield evidence, preserved testimonies, and long-overlooked documents, the story is evolving. Custer did not recklessly charge into calamity. He was not ignorant. He was not oblivious. He sensed peril. He perceived a trap. And yet he advanced, as retreating felt like a fate even more dreadful than combat. The tale of Custer's last stand transcends mere battle. It is a narrative about pressure, pride, fear, and a commander who felt he had no alternative but to proceed, ultimately paying the highest price. If you wish to continue this exploration of the concealed truths, forgotten testimonies, and contentious narratives surrounding the Little Bighorn, ensure you remain connected to this channel. Here, history is not merely recounted, it is revealed. In the next episode, we will delve into a survivor's account that historians have overlooked for almost a century. This testimony challenges everything we believe we understand about Custer's final moments. Stay tuned, the narrative is far from concluded.